So my name is Dr. Inshan Meahjohn. I'm the CEO of iGovTT, which is short for the National Information Communication Technology Company of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's a long name, that's why we call it iGovTT. So it's a state-run enterprise, fully owned by the government, and we operate under the Ministry of Public Administration and Artificial Intelligence. So our mandate is citizen services via digital platforms. We do a whole host of other things: project management, procurement, software development, cybersecurity, but at the core is to deliver services to citizens, and that's what we're most passionate about. My team are a group of purposeful, passionate professionals who are dedicated to our country. So that's a wonderful story, right? So allow me to tell it. There was a delegation from Trinidad and Tobago to India in 2023, and I was honored to be part of that delegation, where we met with the government and government officials in several ministries. Out of that, an MOU emerged between our both countries. iGovTT was tasked to sign the MOU between CDPI and our company. And we wanted to work on DPI, and we took some time to think of what's the most impactful use case that would really solve a problem for our citizens. And that's what we're excited to do, and the journey has been incredible. So our mission doesn't have digital transformation, it's called digital evolution. Why? Because when you're at the cusp of a wave, you're riding the wave. If you're right before, you're crashed out. If you're too much in front, you're crashed out. So there's a perfect point in riding that wave. So it means that you have to be aware, awake, knowledgeable, and understand that you need a lot of help. Understand that there are challenges. So DPI for us is a way to leapfrog legacy systems. So as you can well imagine, there are a lot of legacy systems that operate in our country. But what DPI does, it allows us to layer on top of those. So not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, not to throw out the systems, but to be able to build on top of them. And that layering allows us to go quick and fast. And I don't know if you know, Daniel, Trinidad and Tobago was the last country to join this program, but we're the first country to launch, and we have launched DPI as a service as the fastest country in the world. Our little 1.5 million, 5,000 square kilometers, beautiful nation in the south of the Caribbean, but passionate people did it with a product called Verify TT. So our company runs the e-appointment system for the entire country. If you want to apply for a passport, it operates on us. The largest job platform in the country, Employ TT, and I'll connect that back to Verify TT for you very soon. So we have been building a lot of systems. We even for the entire CARICOM, there's something called the Caribbean Skills, Market and Economy Skill Certificate. CARICOM Single Market and Economy Skill Certificate. So in order to work in another country, you require that certificate. We built that system. Now the output is not a verified credential yet, but we have looked at that. So one of the things, Daniel, you're a student, I'm reframing you as a student, and you've just graduated. You want to apply for a job. What is your difficulty? You apply for the job, but then maybe you're shortlisted. Maybe they ask you for your certificate, but the employer needs to do due diligence. They need to spend time, energy, and effort. You're already anxious. You're uncomfortable. Will I get this job? I don't know. So you're feeling that time tax and frustration tax. Here's the solution. Verify TT, along with CDPI, created digital credentials issued directly from the universities themselves onto the Employ TT platform so that you can apply, you have a certified credential, which the student controls, right? So they control if they give that information to the employer. But can you imagine that? So immediately your time tax is reduced, so you can get your job faster, and your frustration and anxiousness is reduced, and we care about our people. So we wanted to make sure that you feel good. Technology should allow you to achieve a purpose, but feel good about it. Well, in one of my cases, I had worked for a company, and one of my degrees is from the UK. So I had to call the university, pay a lot of pounds. They had to stamp that by a notary, and they had to ship it directly to the HR department because that's due diligence. You can't touch that process to ensure. So that cost me time, energy, and effort, and I could not have been certified in the job until they got that. So even though I got the job, I was part of the probationary period. So even apart from getting the job, on your probation, it's done right away. So one of the first things we need to thank CDPI, we need to thank Manuel and Daniel and the entire team, the NG team, the Triple IT Bangalore team, because we were new. And what they allowed us to do is to understand. They worked with us, they held our hands. Because as you could imagine, there were challenges in implementation originally, right? And in those challenges, your stakeholders, your universities in this case, could lose confidence. But what they did is they allowed us to understand there are things that when you're creating software, there are issues. And they helped us through that. Now, they helped us through it quickly. To your question, it's speed. To your question, it's cost. To your question, it's open source. To your question, in recycling, we talk about reuse and reuse. That's what the DaaS is. That's what DPI is, right? So you create a highway, but everybody can use the highway. This is what NG has done in terms of their stack. When we went to India originally and we saw the stack, we thought, wow, I wish I could have this here. Well, guess what we do? And the citizens, within an 8-month period, fastest DPI as a service in the world was launched. So the challenges would be that our team would not be experts at it. So therefore you need to have knowledge transfer and skills transfer. That's one of them. 2 is to understand the platforms, but our provider that CDPI got for us was very knowledgeable, understood what they were doing, and we needed to build it in terms of our local context and this use case. So really CDPI helped us overcome each challenge. Also, even when we had meetings with the universities, University of Trinidad and Tobago, which is our national university, and the University of the West Indies, which is a regional university. So you're talking about St. Augustine, which is Trinidad campus, and then Barbados, and then Jamaica. They ask a lot of tough questions, which initially we weren't able to answer. Can answer them now, but not then, right? And what CDPI was able to do is to give us technical advice, communication advice, stakeholder alignment, and that is how we overcome the challenges, but quickly. Not just taking a 2-year model. As you know, with DPI, you can launch very quickly. Yesterday, in the keynote, you would have seen that there was a survey. And the survey had under 2 years, it had up to 2+. We were 8 months. There was no category for under a year, right? So really, it is looking at making sure that you have a team that's aligned, understands the vision, that cares about the purpose, which at the end of the day is not a technology platform. It's you, Daniel, the student. And once you know that and that's what you're working for, you can get to your end. Well, I think because, you know, the stars aligned, right? Sometimes things just work out in your best interest. We had the EmployTT platform. We were able to have relationships previously with the universities, so they were able to talk to us. iGovTT is seen as a subject matter expert in our country. So if you want technological advice, we are the ones that you would come to. And then producing this is really what helped us. So getting the stakeholders on board is a critical milestone. Getting the use case, and one of the things I would tell any country, anybody, get one very specific, impactful use case that solves a significant problem for your country. Don't think of 100. You can start with 100, but come with one. Why? It coalesces the entire team behind one singular purpose. So your resources are focused. And then, of course, we did this in 8 months. So as you can imagine, we have a compressed timeline and all the usual software development milestones to make sure that security by design, that it works, that it aligns with, for example, the system at UTT. They have a different data set as UE, right? And therefore, you had to align to both of those and ensure that the citizen was at the center of this at all points. So compressed timeline, delivery, service. So beyond fantastic, CDPI helped us with the funding. the technical resources, selected who that vendor would have been, we would not have had the capability to even do a procurement, because you need to know what you're doing, who you're procuring, for what purpose. They helped us with all of the technical. Many times there were meetings that could have gotten a little challenging, as you could imagine, right? And CDPI would step in, Dan, Manuel, and the other experts and say, okay, let's bring this back, because they have the country experience from other countries. So they can say, we've seen this before. It's okay, we can see the end. I don't think what CDPI recognized is that we could do this so quickly. And they were shocked. We knew that we could do it, but with their help, that's how we achieved. Well, I'm excited because the first digital credential on the platform was my PhD, right? So I literally showed it last week when we presented in Guatemala. So, that was exciting to be able to have a proof of concept. So one of the answers is have a POC, have something that you're explaining. So don't have something that is vague. We were very careful to say digital credentials via education, because you can have any kind of digital credentials, and we have a lot of use cases that are coming, so that we knew about the student, the time tax, the frustration tax. So make sure that your use case is very, very clearly defined. The second thing is you have to have a good team. Create a task force, not a general team. Maybe 5 or 6 members in each of the areas that understand what you're trying to achieve, and have a project manager for that. Communicate, communicate, communicate. That's 3 times. Communicate, communicate. Why? Because as the challenges emerge, you have to have clear communication. And what that leads to is a productivity and a speed. Because then there's a trust, right? Because initially, there is a not lack of trust that you don't trust the individual, but sometimes you don't trust, can we get this done? Is it possible? We don't know. Because it's an unknown in IT, right? And an unknown is a difficult thing. But if you have a partner like CDPI who understands the unknown and has turned that into a known, then it becomes different. Also, engage your stakeholders deeply. Don't think of them as a third party. They're the ones that are central. Involve them in the task force, so that in the initial design phase, they understand what you're doing. In the implementation phase, they understand. In your methodology, they understand. So at no point they're surprised. Why is iGov doing this? Why is INGI doing this? Why is CDPI doing this? You've already explained that. And that's part of the communication. And finally, ensure that you complete. One of the things that we say in iGovTT is to completion. It's great to work. That's fine. But it's also best to finish. So to completion is critical. So as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned a little while ago, so we have the 3 campuses of UE. We're going to go up the region. So you're talking about initial regional expansion. Then the CSME Skills Certificate up the region. So very easily you're doing regional integration via DaaS. You're doing regional participation via DaaS. You're doing regional cooperation via DaaS. And what does it do? It means that instead of having 10,000 students, you could have 100,000 students. So the scalability is really the answer to your question. Because very quickly, once you build that and it works, and Trinidad and Tobago showed that we tested it and we've delivered, the rest of the islands can say, oh, okay, great. They understand the context. And as a matter of fact, the educational institutions are there. And we have a lot of things that we're working on, right? So I don't want to say them just yet, because we like to say and deliver. But there are several other types of digital credentials that we're already in discussions with large state institutions. Yeah, so one of the things is be very careful and take your time on your use case. Ensure that you've looked at who the stakeholders are. Ensure that it's a big problem, because that means scalability at the end. Ensure that the DaaS solution can reduce your cost, because this is about cost, right? Reuse, recycle means that it's going to be cheaper. Ensure that you have the right people around the table, and not only in terms of internally, externally. So for example, our ministry was fully involved, Ministry of Public Administration. Our minister is fully involved in this process. Our chairman, who is actually here with us, is fully involved in the process. So you make sure that your internal stakeholders, your team, your external stakeholders, and then the wider ones are involved. and then execute, execute, execute. As the challenge come up, overcome them. Go to CDPI, ask the question. Don't feel embarrassed that you don't know. We don't. We are now aware, but we started off not knowing. And that gives you a powerful position because every question is valid. And then once you do that, you have the passion, the purpose, you're executing, you have the team, you have a plan. Guess what happens? Verified TT happens. So for me, it's gratitude to my team, gratitude to my minister, gratitude to my chairman and board, gratitude to CDPI, who has been such an amazing partner, gratitude to you and this team that's here, gratitude to Cape Town. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm humbled to be here. I'm humbled to serve my country, and together we will achieve.